In this video, we will revisit the equation of a circle, and I'm going to teach you how to rewrite the equation in standard form. Now, here's two forms for the equation of a circle. There's general form, which just has the equation written almost like a polynomial with no parentheses or anything like that. And then there's standard form, which we prefer in many ways, because if you have the equation written in standard form, at a glance you can tell what the center is, because the h and the k are the coordinates of the center, and you can tell what the radius is, all right, because this number will be the radius squared. So if I give you a circle equation that's in general form, or some other form that's not standard form, this lesson will show you how to rewrite it in standard form. Okay, now the first couple equations are just really simple. The only thing keeping this from being in standard form is the fact that there's a 5 in front of the x squared and y squared. So all I have to do in this case is divide everything by 5. So that's going to give me x squared plus y squared is equal to 25. Now this is standard form. It's just that the h and the k are both 0. That's why we just have x squared and y squared. All right? This is like x minus 0 and y minus 0. So that tells us that the center is 0, 0. The radius is, well, if this 25 is r squared, then that means the radius must be 5. If you needed to, you could think of this as doing the square root of both sides, but it's sort of common sense. Now, if I want to do a graph, that'll be easy since the center is right at the origin, 0, 0. If the radius is 5, that means I can simply go up 5 and down 5 and to the left 5 and to the right 5. And these 4 points should all be on the circle. So then I can go ahead and draw the circle. Whoa, that's ink is too big. Okay, let's shrink that down. All right, and there you go. Similarly, problem number 2 is just as easy, but with these fractions of 1/3, if I want to get rid of those fractions, I will multiply by 3. Okay, I have to multiply by 3 everywhere. But if I multiply by 3, then these 1/3 will cancel each other out. And that is going to give me x squared plus y squared is equal to, this is going to be 36. All right, and again, the fact that I just have x squared and y squared with no number that's being added or subtracted tells me that it must be 0, x minus 0, y minus 0. So again, the center is 0, 0. The radius will be 6 because the 36 is the radius squared. So technically, you could take the square root of both sides or just use your common sense. Anyway, if the center is 0, 0, and the radius is 6, that means if I go up 6, down 6, left 6, and right 6, that will give me 4 points that are on the circle. And then I can draw this guy just like this. So there you go. Now that's the end of the really easy problems. The next couple problems, we're going to have to complete the square in order to convert from general form to standard form. So the first thing you want to do is reorganize the terms. Notice that I have an x term here and an x term here. Those go together. And notice that I have the y squared, and then I have the negative 8y. Those belong side by side. So I'm going to rewrite the problem so that I have x squared and 10x right next to each other. Okay? And then maybe I'll even change colors a little bit here. Leave a space because we're going to complete the square, so we need a blank to pick the third term properly. So I'm going to leave a space, and then I'm going to put plus y squared minus 8y as I put the y terms side by side. And again, I'm going to leave a space before I put the equals 8 at the end. So in a previous video, we learned to complete the square. And here's how that works. When we complete the square, it allows us to rewrite a trinomial as a binomial squared. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready for that. I'm going to have a binomial squared. Okay, now inside that binomial, you see I have my variable as x, so I'm going to have x plus something. I'm getting the plus from this right here. Now, the number that goes inside of the parentheses is going to be half of this. So since this is 10, I'm going to put a 5. Okay, now the number that completes the square, the number that goes in the blank, is going to be this number squared. So I do half the middle, and then I square it. So that's why I'm going to put a 25 right there. Now, if I add 25 on the left side of the equation, to keep the balance, I must add 25 to the right side of the equation. The most common mistake is forgetting to put the 25 on the right as well. Now, we need to do the same thing with the y terms. So again, I'm completing the square here. So I'm going to wind up writing this trinomial as a binomial squared. So since I'm dealing with y's, I'm going to have y. Because there's a minus right here, there's going to be a minus. Now the number that goes here is going to be half of the middle. So this is going to be 4. Now if I take that 4 and I square it, that's going to be 16. That's the number that completes the square. This number will always be positive because even if you think of this as negative 4, like negative 4 squared, that's still positive 16 because negative 4 squared means negative 4 times negative 4. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So when you complete the square, it's always going to be a positive number. Now if I were to go on, that would be a big mistake because I have to immediately remember to add 16 to the right side of the equation as well. So when you complete the square, please remember to put the number on both sides of the equation right away. Okay, so this is what I have so far. And now I can go ahead and look at the right-hand side of the equation. Okay, I see that it is 8, 25, and 16. So I've got 8 plus 25 plus 16. That is 49, which is nice because that's a nice perfect square. That's going to help me in a minute. But guess what? This is the standard form. All right? See how this looks? Just like this. This is standard form. All right? Okay, well, I guess they wanted me to write it over there. Maybe I'll copy it over. All right, so now the center. The center is going to be the opposite of this, comma, the opposite of this. So because of the positive 5, I'm going to have negative 5. Because of the negative 4, I'm going to have a positive 4. So that's going to be the center of the circle. Because of the 49, the radius is going to be 7. All right, this 49 is the radius squared. So if you take the square root, then that's the radius. So look here. The center is negative 5, comma 4. So negative 5, comma 4 is right here. There's my center. Since the radius is 7, that means if I go to the right 7, okay, so that would be 5, 6, 7, that's going to give me a point. If I go down 7, So that'd be 5, 6, 7. All right, that should be on the circle. Okay, now if I go up to here, that's 6. So I'm going to have to go off the grid by a little bit. And then there should be another one over here. I'm going to estimate. So there would be 5, 6, 7 would be somewhere close to there. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and draw my circle. Okay, so your graph should look like this. Okay, you should pause the video and try to do this one by yourself. So I'm going to assume that you have done that. Now, guys, I'm noticing that all of these numbers are divisible by 4. So you should definitely do that before you do anything else. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and divide everything by 4. Okay, because notice on the last problem, the x squared and the y squared, there's no number in front. I really want that to be the case right now, and that's what's about to happen. So now I'm going to have x squared plus y squared minus 6x minus 21 is equal to 0. Okay, great. So, all right, so there's no y term. Now, I'm noticing that I have an x term, well, you know, x squared, and I have another x term here. These belong side by side. So I'm going to rewrite the equation a little bit so that I have x squared minus 6x right next to each other. Okay, and then I have this y squared and this negative 21. I really want to move the 21 to the other side of the equation. Like on the last problem, I had 8 over here by itself. That's going to be the 21 this time. To make that happen, I really need to add 21 to both sides. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to end up with 21 over here on the right-hand side. Okay, but next I'm going to have, I'm just going to change the color a little bit. The y squared is the only thing that's left. So I'm going to have y squared sort of sitting there. I'm leaving plenty of space here because I'm going to need to complete the square, sort of fill in the blank here. I need space for that. The y squared, because there's no other term, it's just y squared, this is done. I'm not going to do anything with the y squared. Okay? But the x part, I'm going to complete the square like I did on the previous problem. So I'm going to rewrite this as a binomial squared. Okay, it's x's, so I know I'm going to have x. This is minus, so I know it's going to be minus. The number is going to be half of this, so it's going to be 3. Now the number that completes the square is going to be this squared, 3 squared. So that's going to be 9. Positive 9. All right, even if it's a negative number, when you square it, it becomes positive. The biggest mistake is just to go on with the problem and not do anything to the right-hand side. When I complete the square, I must add the missing number to both sides of the equation to keep the balance. So as soon as I put the plus 9 here, I must immediately put the plus 9 there. Okay, so this trinomial is equivalent to x minus 3 squared. Now I can bring down the y squared. Okay, and then I'll have equals 30. Okay, very interesting. And look, that's it. This is standard form, x minus 3 squared plus y squared. So let's go. I have x minus 3 squared plus y squared is equal to 30. Okay, so that tells me that the center will be the opposite of this. which is 3, comma, well, because there's no number here, it's just y, that's like y minus 0, so that's why I'm going to have 3 comma 0. Now remember, this 30 represents the radius squared. The radius squared is 30. That means if I want to know what the radius is, I need to take the square root of both sides. Now that's not a perfect square, so let's just go ahead and get a decimal for this. So if I want to do the square root of 30, okay, if I hit this button, I discover that's approximately 5.5. Okay, so the radius is approximately 5.5. Okay, so with this information, I can draw the circle. The center is 3 comma 0, so that would be right here. This is my center. So because the radius is 5.5, I'm going to go up 5.5, down 5.5, okay, I'm going to go to the right 5.5 and to the left 5.5. All right, 5.5 in all directions. And then I should be able to draw this circle. So there you go. All right, again, I encourage you to pause the video and try to do this problem by yourself. As was the case in the last problem, I do not like the fact that I have a 6 in front of my x squared and my y squared. So to fix that, I'm going to divide everything by 6. Boom, 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 boom. That is going to give me x squared minus 12x. Not minus 12x. I spaced out for a second there. Spaced out, y'all. That's going to be 2x plus y squared is equal to 10. All right, I have this. Normally I have to rearrange things, but this time the x terms are already right next to each other. I would like to have a little bit of space between these to complete the square, so maybe I'll just create a little space right here. So let's see, 2x y squared. I'll just put the 2x a little bit closer over here, and I'll put the y squared a little bit more over. I want space here to complete the square. So I'm going to complete the square right here. So I know I'm going to rewrite this as a binomial squared. These are x's, so I'm going to have x. Because this is negative, I'm going to have minus. The number is going to be half of this, so it's going to be 1. Now complete the square, I'm going to square that number. All right, 1 squared is still 1, so I'm going to have plus 1. Or if you think of it as negative 1, negative 1 squared is still positive 1. Please remember to put it on the right-hand side of the equation as well. The most common mistake is putting a plus 1 on the left and forgetting to put it on the right. Now, the y squared, because it doesn't have any other terms, there's not a y term next to it, the y squared is done. So I'm just going to bring that down the way it is. So I'm going to have plus y squared is equal to 11. So that's it, x minus 1 squared. So standard form is going to be x minus 1 squared plus y squared is equal to 11. So the center is going to be the opposite of this, comma this. So it's going to be positive 1, comma 0. There's no number. There's no y minus 3 or y plus 1 or something. So that means it's a 0. The radius is going to be the square root of this. So if I do the square root of 11, and hit this little toggle button, that is approximately 3.3. So the radius is about 3.3. Time to do the graph once again. So 1, 0 is the center. So that's going to be right here. So now I'm going to go 3.3 in all directions. If I go 3.3 to the right, all right, that's about here. 3.3 up, 3.3 left, and 3.3 down. So now I can draw my circle. And that's how it's done. Please pause the video and try to do this problem by yourself. So I have x terms here, and I have y terms here and here. So I'm going to rewrite the problem putting those terms next to each other. So I'm going to have x squared minus 10x, leave us a space, and then I'm going to have y squared minus 2y. Again, leave a space, and then equals 23. So it's time to complete the square. So I'm going to complete the square right here. So I know I'm going to have a binomial squared. These are x's. I'm going to have x and a minus because of the minus. The number is half of this, so that's going to be 5. And then I square that, and I get 25. That's the number that completes the square. Right away, before I forget, I'm going to jump over and put 25 on the right-hand side too. If you add to the left, you must also add to the right to keep the balance. Okay, now I'm going to complete the square right here. So that means I'm going to turn this into a binomial squared. So these are y's, so I'm going to have y and a minus because of that sign. The number is half of this, so that's going to be a 1. The number that completes the square, I need to square this. 1 squared is 1, so I'm going to put a plus 1 on the left and the right. Don't forget the right. Okay, now if I add these up, that's going to be 49. So there's my standard form, x minus 5, y minus 1. So x minus 5 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to 49. So the center is going to be 5, comma 1. It's the opposite of this and the opposite of this. The radius is going to be 7, square root of 49. So now I can do the graph. With the center at 5, comma 1, that's where I begin. Since the radius is 7, that's why I'm going to go up 7. And I'm going to go down 7. And I'm going to go left 7. Okay, now I'm going to try to go right 7, but that's going to be, I have to estimate a little bit. And now I can draw the circle. That is how it's done. All right, for number 7, we're switching gears and we're actually going back to a type of problem that we learned a few videos ago. So we're not going to be completing the square or anything like that. So instead, it just says write the equation of a circle that has a diameter with these endpoints. We're given the hint that we should probably sketch the graph first. I think that's a great idea. So the endpoints of the diameter are 6, 3. So let's go ahead and plot that. Okay, 6, 3. That's one endpoint of the diameter. And then the other one is -4, 3. So negative 4, comma 3. Okay, so look, if I just were to do a rough sketch, understand that the diameter is the segment that goes across a circle through the center from one side to the other. Okay, so I'm talking about a circle that's, I don't know, this is going to be just the roughest of rough sketches. Okay, so we're talking about a circle that's doing something similar to this. And this is the diameter. If this is the diameter, the center is on it, all right? The diameter passes through the center of the circle. So I really want to count squares and figure out where the center is. So this is 4 to the left, 6 to the right. That's a total of 10. So if I go over 5, that should be halfway. So that's right here. So the center is right here at 1, comma 3. So let's go ahead and write that down. 1, comma 3 is the center. I also know the radius is 5. All right, you just heard me counting 10 and then 5. So that's the radius, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now having done that, first of all, I can write a standard form equation based on the center. So we know that when we have the equation, it's the opposite of this and the opposite of this. So for example, we'll have x minus 1 squared plus, and then we'll have y minus 3 squared. Now this is going to be the radius squared. So I'm not going to put 5, I'm going to put 25 because it's the radius squared. Now as far as the graph, with this information I can make the graph better. The radius is 5, so in addition to going left 5 and right 5, I can also go up 5 and down 5. So now I should be able to draw a beautiful circle. That is how it's done. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.